in regards to the investors who have been tasked with reviving the sugar industry in the Western Kenya region. And the president specifically said, and he sort of threw just on try under the bus in regards to matters revival of the sugar industries in the Western Kenya region. Remember, the government, and even during former President Uhuru Kenyatta's administration, remember somewhere around 2016, the government pumped up to 1 billion Kenya shillings in the revival of Mumias Sugar Company, but that did not materialize. So you don't really look into the two sides of the coin. Is alleged abduction, of course, the sentiments made by the head of state in regards to Mr. Rai's involvement in the sugar production in the Western Kenya region. Remember, just on try, he is a private investor in the sugar industry. But away from that, just to wrap up on the Daily Nation, on page 7, they say, we have options should the talks fail. Those, of course, azimio leaders, they were speaking yesterday in Keitany, Kajiado County. They said, it is not a matter. It is not a matter of a life and death, and the talks are not about the opposition, but Kenyans. And of course, they're saying they're not short, or they're not running short of options, and they will pursue other means if at all the hardliners in the Kenya Kwanza government do hold their ground and, of course, wreck the talks. And sportingly, they say Majestic Mora bags gold in the World Championships in Budapest, which just concluded. Mary Mora did win gold for Kenya in the 800 meters yesterday night. And just to take you through the medal standings is that Kenya sits 5th on the medal standings, the first, of course, African country with the 3 gold medals, 3 silver medals, and 4 bronze medals, taking the total tally of the country, or the total country's tally, to 10 medals. And of course, Ethiopia sits 6th with a total of 9 medals. The US do lead the medal standings with 29 medals in total, 12 golds, 8 silver, and of course 9 bronze medals. But talking about matters sports, even as we jump to the standard, is that especially the men's category, we did perform dismally. And of course, there are questions surrounding the qualifiers. And of course, is it, or should it just be one of qualifiers, or should Athletics Kenya hold at least 3 different qualifiers to select the teams or the athletes who will participate, who will, of course, represent the country in the world competitions? Because not even a single gold medal from the men's side. Of the 3 gold medals, that is a double from Faith Kipyegon in the 1500 meters and the 5000 meters, and of course Mary Mora in the 800 meters. But crossing over to the standard this morning, still the same stories, and they say, I don't want to begin with the pride of the nation. They say GOAT, which means the greatest of all time. Faith Kipyegon is now the most decorated and the world's best athlete in 2023 by winning 2 gold medals at the World Athletic Championships in Budapest, Hungary. Early in the year, by the way, Kipyegon broke 3 world records. And he's now the record holder in 3 different categories: in the 1,500 meters, in the 5,000 meters, and in the 1 mile race. Kipyegon, you'd not even argue about this. She's been exemplary this year. So we'll be looking into that. The scores, again, on the front page, they say, mystery of a missing billionaire. The family of investor Jaswant Rai reported to police about his abduction, and all attempts to know his whereabouts were met with a wall of silence. DCI grilled him last month, but of course, like I said, Mr. Jaswant Rai was freed yesterday without being hurt. That is according to his lawyer, Mr. Kioko Kilu Kumi. Those are just some of the stories. Most of the stories are the same, but just want to take you to page 22 of the Standard this morning. And of course, we do know that Zimbabwe as a nation went to the ballot, and Emerson Mnangagwa, the current president, won his 2nd term in office after, of course, he secured 52.6% of the vote. That is according to the Electoral Commission in Zimbabwe. Is being referred to the crocodile. That is his nickname. But all the stories that I've looked at on the Daily Nation this morning are the same stories on the Standard. And of course, one big thing that is, currently still making headlines in the country is the firing of Kenya Airports Authority MD Alex Keitany. He was sacked by the Transport CS Kipchumba Murkomen in regards to the failure of backup generators at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. It is a shame, to be honest, that an international airport or an airport in the station of JKIA can fail to have working backup generators. So we'll be looking into that. But on that note, I'd like to wrap up the newspaper highlights this morning. I'm going on another short breather, but I'll be back with the news making headlines this morning. Let's get straight to the news making headlines this morning. And a triple world record holder Faith Kipyegon stormed to victory in the 5,000 meters run and clinched another gold medal for Kenya by clocking 14 minutes 53 seconds 0.3 ahead of Dutch athlete Sifana San, who finished in the second place, with Kenya's Beatrice Chebet emerging third in another 800 meters. In the 800 meters, Emmanuel Onyonyi settled for second place behind Canadian Marco Arop, who won the race.
Four times World Championship gold winner Faith Kipyegon won a second gold in this year's championship in Budapest after winning 5,000 meters race by clocking 14 minutes 53 seconds 0.88 ahead of Dutch sensational Sifan Hassan, who clocked 14 minutes 53 seconds 0.11 to settle in the second place, with Kenya's Beatrice Chebet clinching the bronze medal after finishing in the third place. Kipyegon continued to rewrite history books after winning a gold medal in 1,500 meters earlier in the week, and fresh from setting 3 different new world records in the month of June and July in 1,500 meters, 5,000 meters and 1 mile run. In the men's 800 meters, world under-20 champion Emmanuel Onyonyi won a silver medal after settling in the second place, timing 1 minute 44 seconds 0.53 behind Marco Arop of Canada, who emerged the winner clocking 1 minute 44 seconds 0.24. Earlier today, in 42 kilometers run, Kenyans were unable to post good results, with Titus RUTO finishing in the 8th place, while Timothy Kiplagat settling in the 14th place. Ugandans Victor Kiplagat won the gold medal, while Maru Teferi of Israel and Luel Gabresalasia finishing in the second and third place respectively. Felix Solana, Lookuptv.
On to a very sad story, and police in Malava, Kakamega County have launched a manhunt for a 17-year-old boy who allegedly murdered a 63-year-old Sarah Vakoya over 60 shillings a date at their shop. Now, the Form 4 student is said to be on the run after angry residents stormed their home baying for his blood. As Beatrice Njoroge now files, this comes as 3 suspects escaped the jaws of death and are being detained at Ikolomani police station over the murder of 59-year-old Esther Ayuma from Malinya.
In a bizarre yet sad incident in Kakamega County, a Form 4 student is being sought after by the police officers after allegedly taking the life of a 63-year-old Sarah Vakoya over a 60-shilling debt at their local shop.
Huyo kijana alikuwa anatayo mama shilingi 60.
The suspect, only known as James, was at their shop when the deceased came to settle a debt with 1,000 shillings note, only for them to disagree on how much was to be paid.
Wakaanza korofiana. Huyo kijana akadoka kwa tuka, akachukua mawe, akapika huyo mama mawe ya tumbo. Huyo mama akaanguka chini, akakufa.
Harakati akakuja kununua vitu na kijana akataka kukata pesa yenye excess kuliko yenye kwa inatakikana.
In another incident, police in Ikolomani are detaining 3 suspects following the murder of Esther Ayuma, a 59-year-old woman from Malinya, Kakamega County.
Ni mamangu, tumeishi na yeye. Mama ukuangi na ugonjwa yoyote, mama anakuanga mzima. Jioni mimi nimekuja kwa nyumba ya mama, nimempata hapo. Vile nimetoka kibarua nimekampata hapo. Nikatoka kwa nyumba nikaenda kwa nyumba yangu kulala. Asubuhi hii ndio naamuka, wanakuja kuniamusha kwa nyumba. Wanasema mama watu wamemua kwa mtoni.
Kakamega Senator Boni Halwale stormed at the area where Esther Ayuma lived, leading the residents in a search of the suspects. One of the suspects is said to be the lover of the deceased.
Nasikitika kwamba mama mzee, Mama Esther, mwenye umri kati ya miaka 55 na miaka 60, tumempata kama ametupwa. She has been raped and she has been murdered. Wale wenye walihusika na hii maneno, by good luck, wote watatu tumeshika.
Residents call on police to thoroughly investigate the case, with the body of the victim moved to Kakamega mortuary, awaiting autopsy. Beatrice Njoroge, Lookuptv.
Now, moving forward, the family of billionaire sugar investor Jaswant Singh Rai has expressed deep concern following his reported kidnapping, now allegedly involving individuals suspected to be police personnel. The incident has raised questions about the safety of citizens and the possible resurgence of extrajudicial actions. According to his family, the incident occurred on August 25th, 2023, at around 4 p.m. The family claiming that Rai was abducted by individuals believed to be police personnel near Wood Avenue in the capital, Nairobi. The family promptly reported the incident to the authorities, filing a missing person case under OB number 25 of 26. And of course, Rai's vehicle was of course discovered abandoned in the same location where he was kidnapped, and as of now is of course kidnapping as of now, by the way, Rai was of course released by his kidnappers, and of course the family is still calling on the government entities led by DCI to of course look into the matter and unravel what really happened and who kidnapped Mr. Jaswant Rai, based on the fact that DCI said, and the DCI boss Mr. Mohamed Amin did say they do not have any information in regards to who kidnapped the sugar baron. Now, it is a reprieve for Kilifi residents after the county government unveiled a new specialized emergency services unit fully equipped with paramedics and modern ambulances fitted with high-end emergency equipment to deal with medical emergencies. As Dasa Crystal now reports, the county government noted that at least 8,000 people have been registered under the NHIF and are set to benefit from the facility, with more people set to be registered under the NHIF program.
In a bid to boost healthcare, the county government of Kilifi has launched a specialized emergency renal unit and a warehouse to store medicine in order to offer better health services given to county residents.
Mheshimiwa Gavana, umeanza na kina mama. Wakati tulipokuwa tunalia sana, tunasema hatuna madawa, wamama wetu wakija kujifungua wanakwenda kununua maji ambayo yamewekwa kwa thermos, lakini tumeona hayo umeyafanya katika hospitali yetu. We are counting one blessing after the other.
Speaking during the launch, Kilifi Governor Gideon Mungaro said that the kidney patients will not have to travel long distances to access services. Mungaro also said that NHIF services are being offered to the residents of Kilifi and that 8,000 people have already been registered, adding that 60 million shillings has been set aside to register more people. On the other hand, Kilifi County Executive Member for Health Peter Morogo said that the renal unit launched will reduce congestion at the Malindi Sub-County Hospital and that the warehouse will ensure continuous supply of medicine to health facilities.
Kwa hivyo leo hapa tutazindua renal dialysis center ama renal unit ambayo wagonjwa wote wa Kilifi County na hata wale wa nje wataweza kupata hiyo huduma figo kusafishwa, na huo ni ugonjwa ambao unatatiza sana famili nyingi, zinaingia umaskini kwa sababu ya what we call renal failure. Sasa kwa leo tutazindua hiyo.
Hadassa Crystal, Lookuptv.
Now, Lake Turkana wind power plant has dismissed reports by Kenya Power that it was responsible for the nationwide supply interruption that rocked the country from Friday night. Now, the plant, in a statement, said that it was forced to go offline and stop generation following an overvoltage in the national grid, which caused the power plant to go off, of course, automatically to avoid extreme damage.
The recent nationwide blackout in Kenya, lasting over 12 hours, led to an online exchange of accusations between Lake Turkana Wind Power and the Kenya Power Company. LWP denied responsibility, clarifying that its systems automatically shut down to prevent damage to an already overloaded national grid. LWP explained in a quote, "We emphasize that the power outage was not caused by Lake Turkana Wind Power. The wind power plant had to deactivate due to an overvoltage event in the national grid, triggering an automatic shutdown to prevent severe harm." Although LWP attributed the outage to grid overvoltage, it also mentioned that before shutting down, its systems had contributed 270 megawatts to the national grid, according to preliminary assessments conducted by independent industry experts. On the other hand, Energy and Petroleum Cabinet Secretary Davis Chirchir, along with KPLC Managing Director Joseph Siror, pointed to LWP as the cause of the blackout. KPLC later affirmed this view, explaining that the power loss originated from a 270 megawatts drop in generation at the Lake Turkana wind power plant. This loss distributed the power system's balance, leading to the shutdown of other generation units and resulting in a complete grid outage. The Kenya Power statement stated, and I quote, "Although plants can experience shutdowns, our technical teams are investigating data from protection relays to identify the precise cause of the incident that triggered a chain reaction leading to the system's failure." Meanwhile, the National Assembly Energy Committee has summoned CS Chirchir and KPLC CEO Siror to provide insights into the prolonged blackout, which impacted crucial services including operations at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. The blackout prompted significant changes at the airport, and the committee aims to understand the reasons behind the outage.
And to matters of sugar politics, and as sugar areas continue to hit the vast western region, which heavily depends on sugarcane farming, President William RUTO now says his administration will do whatever it takes to revive the once vibrant sector. The head of state, who is on a 5-day tour in the vote-rich western region, blasted the management of the ailing sugar factories over what he termed as incompetence.
It is during a Thanksgiving service in Bungoma County that a seemingly infuriated President William RUTO decried the mismanagement of sugar companies in the western region, noting that his administration will work with private investors to oversee the revival of various sugar factories in the region, while calling out previous investors for hoodwinking sugarcane farmers in the region.
Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results is madness. Yani, kufanya kitu unafanya, unarudia, na unangojea matokeo tofauti, matokeo ni yale yale, hiyo ni kuwa mjinga na kuwa wazimu. Na sisi bana watu wazimu. So tunataka formula ambayo italete serikali na private sector tufanye pamoja ili kampuni ya Nzoia iweze kujisimamia.
In a bid to ensure the country is food secure, the head of state has continued to assure farmers of his government's desire to enhance production in a bid to increase yields, while hinting at a plan to procure milk coolers to cushion milk farmers from incurring losses.
Nataka tukubaliane shilingi ngapi mkulima atalipwa kwa maziwa. Kama ni shilingi 50 kwa lita moja, ama shilingi 55, ama itafika shilingi ngapi, we need to agree. Already nimecommission watu wanafanya hiyo kazi, ili tuhakikishe kwamba ninyi kama wakulima mnatusaidia kuzalisha maziwa katika taifa letu la Kenya. Kwa sasa tunatumia pesa ya Kenya kuagiza maziwa, karibu lita bilioni 1 zinaagizwa zinakuja Kenya, ng'ombe ya watu wengine, na sisi tuko na uwezo ya kufanya hiyo kazi.
RUTO, however, called on the opposition to fulfill its oversight mandate constitutionally, with his deputy calling on the Luhya community to rally behind Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi and Speaker Moses Wetangula.
Vile kama wanataka tutengeneze ofisi ya leader of opposition kule bunge, niko tayari to fund na serikali ya Kenya. Awe anatoa statement kutoka asubuhi mpaka jioni, hii serikali imekosa hapa, hii serikali haijafanya hii serikali imekosa pale, mimi sina problem.
These two leaders waliangalia siasa ya Kenya, wakaona hii jamii ya magharibi imepotea. They analyzed and made a wise and fulfilling decision to take their people to government. We want to salute these two leaders. But you must do much better than that. You must have unity of purpose behind these two leaders and come and work with President William Ruto so that the struggle for scarce resources, you are well represented and united.
KOTU Secretary General Francis Atwoli, while defending Ruto's administration, noted that the economic situation was a global issue, while echoing the decision by opposition allied governors to support the Kenya Kwanza administration.
Muache ubinafsi, selfish. One company from South Nyanza, Migori, mpaka huku, ya miwa peke yake. You build big things.
Roga Evil, Lookuptv.
Now, the Deputy Treasurer of the Kenya National Union of Teachers, Kennedy Nyamwanda, wants the Teachers Service Commission, that is TSC, to consider paying teachers their retirement benefits. According to Nyamwanda, retired teachers are being frustrated before getting the benefits and is calling on TSC to look into the matter.
Speaking during the annual conference of members of NAT in Machakos, Nyamwanda strongly criticized the idea of the members of parliament to push a bill to reduce the retirement age for government employees, including teachers, insisting that 60 years is appropriate for retirement and it should not be reduced in any way.
In the same wavelength, I want to say that there is this bill being brought to parliament about the retirement age. The retirement age, we are appealing to the member of parliament who is bringing that bill to drop it, because teachers at 60 are very young. Public servants at 60 are very young. When you tell us to retire at 55, and this is the time we are investing, because between 50 and 58, that is the time the teachers are investing. So we are appealing to our beloved member of parliament who is bringing that bill to drop it for the good of our public servants and the teachers in this country.
In addition, he has advised the senior managers in TSC to consider promoting teachers and also increasing their benefits.
Retirement is an issue in the teachers because one, we want the Pension Act to be reviewed. The Pension Act to be reviewed such that the teachers do not be paid by Treasury. Let Teacher Service Commission prepare and organize and pay the teachers once they have retired, because teachers spend so much time in the streets roaming looking for their pension after retirement. So we are appealing that the Pension Act to be reviewed such that once they have retired, they are paid directly by Teacher Service Commission, who is our employer.
He has complained, however, that many teachers go through a lot of challenges in the grassroots. Many are very frustrated waiting for promotion and salaries and eventually retire without their plights being looked at.
Our teachers have really stagnated in the same grade for a long time. We are meeting Teacher Service Commission on Monday. We are appealing to the Teacher Service Commission to look at this thing known as CPG. The career progression guideline is making our teachers to suffer, to remain in the same grade for a long time, not unless they want to move to administrative positions. That's when they move to another grade. And when they are moving to another grade, they are subjected to interview. We want grade B5, C1, C2 and 3 be called common cadre grades, such that our teachers, once they are in B5, they only spend 3 years, they move to C1. After 3 years, they move to C2. After 3 years, they move to C3. Now, thereafter, they can be subjected to interviews to move to other grades.
Now, they say education is the passport to the future, saying that Irene Chebet knows all too well. Despite her dreams being cut short at least 21 years ago, the never-ending Chebet never lost hope and is now a student at the Kenya Medical Training College after she resumed her studies despite being a mother of 5, with amongst her classmates being her own daughter. As Nushin Mungasia now narrates, Chebet's story not only showcases the never-ending urge for knowledge, but also a story of hope and resilience.
It not only takes courage to step back into a classroom after years of dropping out of school, but also determination to juggle the demands of school with family and other commitments. But for Irene, this is a simple decision that she made, as she is not only the eldest in the class, but also an inspiration to others. Meet 39-year-old Irene Chebet, a mother of 5 and a student at Kenya Medical Training College in Teso South. Chebet sat for her KCSE examination in 2002 and managed to score a B, aspiring to become a medical doctor, but her dreams would later be shattered for 21 years.
Mimi nilimaliza shule mwaka wa 2002, nikapata grade ya B plain, na nilikuwa natamania sana ni pursue any medical course. Lakini kwa sababu ya wazazi wangu hawangeweza kunipeleka niweze kuendelea na ni pursue my passion, nikaweza kukaa nyumbani kama mama msichana yote kawaida. Niliweza kupata mume, nikaolewa.
With no formal education, she would be forced to become a housewife and sometimes do odd jobs to provide for her 5 children.
Mimi ni mama wa watoto 5, wavulana 3 na wasichana 2. Nimeweza kulea hao watoto wakienda shule. Ilifika mahali nilikuwa natamania sana kuwa daktari baada ya kumaliza kidato cha 4.
An opportunity to chase her dreams would later pop up after NGCDF built a medical training college in her village, and after applying she also got a scholarship in the institution, and her journey would later become an inspiring story of hope and resilience.
Niliposikia kwamba kuna ufadhili wa wanafunzi kwenda shule kwa ajili ya kusomea taaluma ya kiafya, niliweza kuapply katika Teso North constituency, nikaweza kupata bursary ya kuniwezesha kuendelea na my dreams. Currently nina pursue clinical medicine and surgery in Bungoma KMTC.
Today, alongside her firstborn, who is also in university, she is back to school and proudly advises young men and women whose dreams have been shattered to never give up.
I would like to say to any child or any person who is out there, because they have not gotten an opportunity to go to school, is that what matters is their determination, the hope that they have. Because if for Chebet, if she didn't have that desire, she couldn't have taken advantage of this scholarship. So I would like to encourage everybody who still has a dream to go back to school, that our government is taking good care of our children through NGCDF and many other bursaries in the country.
Nushin Mungasia, Lookuptv, Nairobi.
Well, that particular story wraps up our news briefs at this hour, but we'll be going on a short breather, but I'll be back with able panelists, including Wakili Fanyamambo Kinuthia Callistus, Mr. Callistus, the Secretary General of the Operation Linde Ugetuzi, and Mr. Edwin Kigoli, who will be joining us via Skype, who is a youth and policy expert. Now, on that note, we take a short breather, but don't go away, because we'll be having a very interesting conversation surrounding the state of the nation. A lot has happened politically, and we'll be looking into that deeply, even as we kickstart our week with the president still on his 5-day tour of the Western Kenya region. Don't go away.
Realize your home ownership dream by investing in Brookvale Tuala, a magnificent prime residential property located in Ongata Rongai. Brookvale Tuala by Safaricom Investment Cooperative overlooks the majestic Ngong Hills and lies only 24 kilometers from Nairobi CBD. The project boasts of well-serviced plots with a perimeter wall, graded roads and a borehole. 50 by 100 plots are going for 1.4 million shillings with a flexible payment plan of up to 6 months. To book your plot, Call 0729 121212 today. Safaricom Investment Cooperative, the investment partner of choice.
Infinity Industrial Park is one of the largest private industrial parks located along Eastern Bypass, Nairobi, which provides modern infrastructure for smooth operations for industries and business enterprises. Infinity Industrial Park offers world-class amenities and facilities with wide roads, a police station, a power substation, fire station, public transport stage, hospital, and shopping mall. In addition, Infinity Industrial Park also offers CCTV cameras, 24-hour private armed security patrol, sewer, water, fiber optic cable, and 3-phase power connection, added to public utility, canteen, and dining areas. Sail on the golden opportunity to invest in Infinity Industrial Park, fully serviced warehouses at a special price of 3,569 Kenyan shillings per square foot. For more inquiries, visit our website infinityindustrialpark.com.
As the night falls, we come to life to bring you a comprehensive broadcast from the numerous events happening across our 47 counties.
When it breaks, it matters, and each story is important.
If it's Thursday, join me, Nancy Lelima, and my able panelists as we break down the law jargons and analyze the Constitution in a way only you can understand.
The news cycle never stops, neither does time. We cover each and every sector and present to you factual and accurate occurrences. This is where facts win the day. Join me,
Nancy Lelima,
Ian Keitany, Tuesday, every Wednesday,
Thursday,
as from 9 p.m. on The Insight, only on Lookuptv.
The story we're telling today is a story of passion in practice that grows into business.
We have partnered with the Youth Fund, talk to as many youth as possible and work with them, hold their hand.
It is an expose of captains who have decided to take on challenges in different sectors and industries within the country.
My mentors had also not started as CEOs. They grew up and they showed me how they grew in the organizations. So that's what motivated me to actually do international business. And it was a good experience.
As an individual, support in bridging that care gap, part of me also to offer a solution. I want to leave this world a better place than I found it.
This is the Captain's Arena. My name is Simba Elijah Charles Kiage.
How do women do it? Will the real superheroes please stand up? Welcome to the best show on all things women.
You can.
Now we have to tell you, on our show, we're not just talk. We're mothers, wives, working women, your hosts, and the list goes on.
We also know how to relax and have some fun. It's living the life.
Yes, it is.
Praise the Lord and Bwana Yesu asifiwe sana. My name is Pastor Joseph. I'm from a ministry called Reconcilers World. God gives strength to the weary. I am, Jesus is speaking. He says, I am the door. Then he says, anyone who enters in through me will be saved. The Lord is my shepherd or shepherd. Then he says, I will always have everything I need. God desires to guide you. He's telling you that this day, don't just trust the Lord, but He's telling you, trust the Lord widely.
Hi, and welcome to Tujenge Home. Your #1 show when it comes to all things architecture, real estate, property development, interior design. You get it right here on Tujenge Home. When the food is ready.
You want to serve them?
Dinner is served. Yeah. Let's go. Let's go.
Beautiful, wonderful, glorious. We are having the show that we share entitled Shepherd Voice.
I'm waiting for you to get me to Kenya. That's what I'm waiting
for you.
God is the source of every blessings that flow into your life.
And I know that God is going to bless you and to do a new thing.
Pray. Pray.
Kipindi ni ukulima ni mali na manjoro. Every Sunday, saa 10. Jiunge na mimi ili nikufundishe mengi kuhusu ukulima wa nyanya, wa mboga, kuweka ng'ombe, kila kitu ambayo inahusikana na ukulima, ili ujifundishe mengi, uweze kujua ukulima pia ni mali. Kumbuka kipindi ni nini? Kipindi ni ukulima ni mali na manjoro, upate hela.
As the night falls, we come to life to bring you a comprehensive broadcast from the numerous events happening across our 47 counties.
When it breaks, it matters, and each story is important.
If it's Thursday, join me, Nancy Lima, and my able panelists as we break down the law jargons and analyze the Constitution in a way only you can understand.
The news cycle never stops, neither does time. We cover each and every sector and present to you factual and accurate occurrences. This is where facts win the day. Join me,
Nancy Lima,
Ian Keitany, Tuesday, every Wednesday,
Thursday,
as from 9 p.m. on The Insight, only on Lookuptv.
The story we're telling today is a story of passion in practice that grows into business.
We have partnered with the Youth Fund, talk to as many youth as possible and work with them, hold their hand.
It is an expose of captains who have decided to take on challenges in different sectors and industries within the country.
My mentors had also not started as CEOs. They grew up and they showed me how they grew in the organizations. So that's what motivated me to actually do international business. And it was a good experience.
As an individual, support in bridging that care gap, part of me also to offer a solution. I want to leave this world a better place than I found it.
This is the Captain's Arena. My name is Simba Elijah Charles Kiage.
Once again, tuko hapa Angel Center for Abandoned Kids, all because of you.
My name is Catherine Wanjiru. I am the admin, Angel Center for Abandoned Children. Our founder is Wamaitha Mwangi. We currently have 64 children, 32 going to school, and among those 32, 2 are special children, and we are left at the home with 32. Now the toddlers and the infants. To the LUTO Foundation, thank you so much for remembering us. Guys, we lack words. We lack words. We don't know what to say. Thank you for remembering us. You made a promise and you have delivered. And may God bless you. To my fellow Kenyans, as usual, cheza LUTO, sio ndoto. Angel Center tumeshinda LUTO.
Every time you play LUTO, 25% goes to the LUTO Foundation, which supports our fellow Kenyans through various causes. Thank you for your help. Together, we are changing lives.
As the night falls, we come to life to bring you a comprehensive broadcast from the numerous events happening across our 47 counties.
When it breaks, it matters, and each story is important.
If it's Thursday, join me, Nancy Lima, and my able panelists as we break down the law jargons and analyze the Constitution in a way only you can understand.
The news cycle never stops, neither does time. We cover each and every sector and present to you factual and accurate occurrences. This is where facts win the day. Join me,
Nancy Lima,
Ian Keitany, Tuesday, every Wednesday,
Thursday,
as from 9 p.m. on the Insight, only on Lookuptv.
So the story we're telling today is a story of passion in practice that grows into business.
We have partnered with the Youth Fund, talk to as many youth as possible and work with them, hold their hand.
It is an expose of captains who have decided to take on challenges in different sectors and industries within the country.
My mentors had also not started as CEOs. They grew up and they showed me how they grew in the organizations. So that's what motivated me to actually do international business. And it was a good experience.
As an individual, support in bridging that care gap, part of me also to offer a solution. I want to leave this world a better place than I found it.
This is the Captain's Arena. My name is Simba Elijah Charles Kiage.
Hi, and welcome to Tujenge Home. Your #1 show when it comes to all things architecture, real estate, property development, interior design. You get it right here on Tujenge Home. When the food is ready.
You want to serve them?
Dinner is served. Yeah. Let's go. Let's go.
Karibu mtazamaji kwenye kipindi cha jamii na itikadi.
Yaani kitako tuna mengi.
Mapenzi yanapoanza watu huitana bebi na majina mengine matamu, lakini baadaye penzi linapogeuka na kuwa shubiri,
mtu anafikia kwenda kumtafuta mke mwingine.
Itakuwaje?
Yule wa kwake nyumbani labda hajamridhisha.
Ni sawa ama vipi Maliki?
Dadangu, wanaume ni kama maembe.
Huyu ni mwanamume atakuja abadiliki.
Mwanaume mwenye wanawake wengi hata katika uchumba, kwenye ndoa ataendelea. Mtu na tabia yake hawachi. Ile umbo la kike likishaanza, kila kitu kishaanza kuwa mahali pake.
Ningependa kukuona.
Sijaenda mahali ambapo mimi nilisikia mtu ati huyu alikuwa shujaa, alikufa katika mstari wa mbele wa ndoa. Sijawahi sikia mimi.
Kipindi ni ukulima ni mali na manjoro. Every Sunday saa 10. Jiunge na mimi ili nikufundishe mengi kuhusu ukulima wa nyanya, wa mboga, kuweka ng'ombe, kila kitu ambayo inahusikana na ukulima, ili ujifundishe mengi, uweze kujua ukulima pia ni mali. Kumbuka kipindi ni nini? Kipindi ni ukulima ni mali na manjoro, upate hela.
Staying with us, we are getting into the big conversation this morning. Like I alluded to earlier, a lot happened over the weekend, from the power blackout on Friday night through to Saturday. And by the way, even by Saturday evening, some parts of the country were still experiencing power outage. Now that resulted to the firing of Kenya Airports Authority MD, Mr. Alex Keitany. Firing that was done by, of course, Mr. Keitany was sent packing by the transport CS, that is Kipchumba Murkomen. His firing, as you know, led to mixed reactions across the country. And apart from that, a lot has happened politically over the weekend, from the Western sugar politics to the bipartisan talks to the, what I'd say, a war of words between the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, who attended the burial ceremony in Nyandarua County together with former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. It ensued to, you know, what I'd say, a war of words, and specifically on the issue of the dialogue between the Kenya Kwanza coalition and the opposition. That, of course, includes, it is 13 years since we, of course, promulgated the new constitution, and a lobby group led by PLO Lumumba now say they are kickstarting, or they're planning to kickstart an initiative or drive to collect 1 million signatures in a bid to, of course, make the review, or in a bid to review the constitution. And of course, through the collection of the 1 million signatures, they're trying to make it a popular initiative as required by law. Now we'll be looking into all that, and like I said, I'll be joined by Wakili Fanyamambo Kinuthia, Mr. Callistus Wafula, the Secretary General of the Operation Linda Ugatuzi, and Mr. Edwin Kigoli will be joining us via Skype, who is a youth and policy analyst. Let's jump straight to it. Wakili, a very good morning to you, and thank you very much for joining us this morning. Nice to have you again here on the Morning Drift. Mr. Callistus.
Yes, good morning.
Morning to you. I believe you had a wonderful weekend.
Yes.
Of course, affected by blackout.
Yeah.
Mr. Kigoli, good morning to you, if you can hear me. Mr. Kigoli, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great. Very, very good having you on the Morning Drift this morning, just to, of course, have a conversation surrounding the state of the nation, the political heat, and even, it's the heat, the blackout that we faced as a country on Friday, and it has been termed as it is a national shame per se. But let me start with Mr. Callistus Wafula.
Yes.
On Friday we did have a national blackout.
Yes.
From around 9:30 p.m. all the way to Saturday in the evening in some parts.
Yes.
Specifically where I stay, the lights were back at around 2:30 on Saturday.
Yes.
Now, first things first, the blackout did lead to the sacking of Kenya Airports Authority MD Alex Keitany.
Yeah.
What do you make of his sacking and the entire saga surrounding the power outage?
First of all, may I say that the power blackout
was just planned. And the sacking of the MT, I don't think they have given him justice, because he was supposed to be summoned. If it was negligence on his part, he was supposed to be summoned and given the opportunity to defend himself. Just the same, they have given the MD of Kenya Power and the many others who are involved. What we are seeing is that this power blockout was organized systematically, because on 24th, Professor Kithure Kindiki, CS for Interior, ordered removal of all roadblocks in Kenya, countrywide. So it seems there was something they were trying to do. And I don't know if it's about taking out the servers or doing something, which many Kenyans are of that view. And what we are seeing is confusion, because this regime of William RUTO, they are running the country on basis of propaganda and doing so many things which doesn't show a good picture. This is a country that is ruled by a rule of it is a democratic country. It is governed by rule of law. So when you see such a kind of things happens, then they don't give clear information on what was the cause of the national power blackout. Then you must have reason to worry. They are doing so many things that we don't know if we'll end up having a country, or this country will be a country that many people will put it under the country that are ruled like banana republics.
Wakili, Fanyamambo Kinuthia. My first question to you would be, is Mr. Keitany a sacrificial lamb? Because the entire circus, like Mr. Calista Sofula has alluded to, the energy CS, that is Mr. Davis Chirfir, and the Kenya Power MD, Mr. Engineer Joseph Siror, have been summoned to appear before the respective committees. The Energy Committee in the National Assembly led by Mwala MP. Now, why is it that Mr. Keitany was fired while the other two, who of course in this particular sector, given an opportunity to appear before the Energy Committee?
A very good morning once again. I think first and foremost, I would like to thank the government for firing Mr. Keitany and to congratulate them and tell them that they did a very good thing. If I was government, I would do the same thing, and I want to explain myself why. You see, Kenya imports a lot of things. We import electricity from Ethiopia and Uganda as well. So the Kenya Airports Authority is mandated with handling things at the airport. Now, the airplane that was carrying electricity for Kenya, electricity for the next 3 months for this republic, was not handled well by the Kenya Airports Authority. They did not handle that aeroplane well, so that it did not land in good time to allow for offloading. And for those who don't know, electricity comes packed in the aeroplane, and then there are small boxes like this, one for each of the 10 million homes. And then for the industries, there are buckets full of electricity, so that a company as big as Lookuptv would have a whole bucket written their name. So this aeroplane that was carrying electricity for Kenya for the next 3 months was not handled properly by the Kenya Airports Authority, and it caused a blackout. So I think it was fair to fire Mr. Keitany, because he did not handle well the aeroplane that was bringing electricity for all Kenyans. And we were waiting for it, so that once it lands and then it's packed from the aeroplane, and then each family, usually there's a small box marked for every family for each of the 10 million homes that have electricity. So that's how you ended up having a blackout, because a small box of electricity that was coming from Ethiopia was not handled well by a Kenya Airports Authority MD, and the plane did not land in good time, and the offloading did not happen in good time. So we all did not get electricity, and Kenya Airports Authority is to blame. We are foolish enough to believe that. Now, having said that, I'd like to say that there are employment and labor relations laws in this country. And as a lawyer, I worry deeply when I see what is an energy problem being resolved by a Minister for Transport and Communication? What is an energy problem? I mean, when was the last time a human being was fired on national TV without proper procedure being followed? Nowadays, even in a station as big or as small as this one, you cannot hire and fire a cook in the morning. You cannot even hire and fire a janitor like that. You need to go through the procedures. You need to give them a hearing. The laws of natural justice are such that you cannot be condemned and heard. The MD was condemned and heard. And if there's an MD listening to me out there, you need to start being careful. I think one of the core job responsibilities of an MD is to stay in the generator room and to make sure that the switches are working. Because it doesn't matter how good work you do in the office and what quantum of good work you do in the office, you can get fired for a generator switch not working. So you need to tell up the MD of Switch TV to be very careful, and the directors, and to always be going to check the generator room, because one day if the switch goes off and power doesn't come on from the generator, then the MD of this noble institution can be fired for that. I think we need to start thinking as a nation, what is it that constitutes the job description of an MD? And I don't think checking a generator switch is one of them.
But Wakili, before we talk to Mr. Kigoli, who then should be held accountable? Because for an international airport like JKIA to have backup generators, but at the end of the day we have a national blackout, the backup generators do work, who then should be held responsible for that particular mess? Because clearly, or probably, someone slept on the job. So who then should be held accountable?
I think you're first dealing with the symptoms of a disease. And by this, I mean you are firing the recipient of a service or a product that is electricity. This is a recipient. It's like Kenyatta National Hospital, for example. If their generators failed, primarily we shouldn't be fighting the hospitals for their generators failing. We should be asking ourselves as a nation, are we able to provide two different separate lines of electricity for our critical facilities? So that if this line was to fail, this line would work, all connected to the grid. Or if this line was to fail, solar would be working, not diesel-reliant generators for our critical institutions. And also, having said that, I keep saying, you know, if you have a stomach problem and you have a running stomach, going to seal the exit and saying the problem is coming from the exit, it just shows that you're not thinking, because eventually you will realize that sealing the exit is not the problem. You need to get a doctor who asks, why is this stomach running? And what can we do to stop the stomach from running? So these are people who have seen that there's a running stomach, and instead of prescribing medicine that will help the running stomach, they have gone to seal the exit of what is showing that there's a running stomach, and that is a big problem.
Mr. Kigoli, I don't know if you can hear me. Now, Mr. Kalistas and Wakili Fanyamambo have talked about, you know, the firing of the MD, Kenya Airports Authority. I'd really want to hear from you, because the explanation from Kenya Power is that the blackout was occasioned by the loss of around 270 megawatts from the Lake Turkana wind power station. And of course, they said that particular loss of 270 megawatts did lead to the imbalance in the national grid system, which made the main generation stations to trip. But Lake Turkana wind power did refute those claims. Who is fooling who?
Well, good morning, and I'm delighted to join our viewers this morning. And what happened the other day was a national embarrassment, and it posed a national security issue, because the country cannot be dealing with such a matter in such a, like, at this particular point in time and age. And the firing of the MD, you know, reflects what is called, like, the buck stops with whom. So the JKIA is prepared in such a way that any outage would not incapacitate or run to a halt the operations of the airport. And everybody saw, as everybody heard, that the airport could no longer operate because it was in total darkness. And my colleague said switching on or off of sockets is not a description of the MD, but the question is, whom does the buck stop with? When the Ministry of Transport does not perform well, whom do we call to account? We, as Kenyans, trusted the president to lead the country in every front, but the president cannot be everywhere at every single time. That's why he has cabinet secretaries and principal secretaries to help him perform the function. But movement, we did not elect the MD, we elected the president. Now, in this particular case and circumstance, the MD will have to pay the ultimate price, because then again, he should be on top of things. And this is a very cardinal issue as far as the operations of JKIA are concerned. Because look, the airport could no longer take flights in or let flights out. And this was a bad imaging of the country internationally, because then again, it looks like we are we are power insecure, all right? And I think a thorough audit should be done as to exactly what caused the imbalance, because the wind power authorities have come out to say, we did not occasion this, neither did this have anything to do with us. Then again, who is to be held accountable? And the minister or the cabinet secretary in charge of transport and Kipchumba Murkomen and Davis Cheche should work hand in hand and relevant authorities to establish exactly what caused that issue, because this is not just a power outage issue, it is a national security issue. You want to imagine how much money the country lost as a result of this power blackout. So everybody must be held to account. Who did not do what? And when the facts are laid bare and it is determined that the MD failed in his role, then he should be fairly dismissed, and he's paid his compensation or his dues, so that there is fair and due process, just as my colleague had alluded to. So I think moving forward, what we witnessed was a bitter and embarrassing lesson that we must all rise above, because this is not even the first time we're experiencing such issues in the country, and it means or reflects on us not learning lessons very well, because then again, having consistent power supply should be our topmost priority. And these outages should be flagged even before they happen. It should be detected ahead of time. And when it happens, Kenya Power and Lighting Company should be able to address the issue. And I think many pundits, independent analysts have agreed to the fact that the monopoly of Kenya Power should be broken. Let us liberalize production of power in this country so that we can have the private sector injecting in so powerfully, so that there is competition as to who is providing consistent and reliable power supply.
Mr. Kigoli, I just want to ask you this before I go back to Mr. Wafula and Wakili Fanyamambo. You've talked about, the MD should be on top of things, but at the end of the day, in as much as he was fired, and Mr. Wakili Fanyamambo talked about fair dismissal. Is it a case of him being dismissed unfairly? Because if at all the CS for Energy, that is Mr. Davis Churchill, and is a Kenya Power MD, the Kenya Power MD, Mr. Engineer Joseph Siror, were summoned to appear before the Energy Committee, why is it that Mr. Alex Gitari was not given that opportunity to at least explain what happened and probably point out who is at fault and what is at fault before being shown the door?
I think, or I'm not privy to exactly the specifications under his contractual employment. So there is a laid down procedure as to how such a person should be fired. And the position we are talking about is not just a mere position, it is the managing director. So there is a due process to be followed. And there are many ways to achieve this. It could be, terminal leave. It could be anything. Like you just invoke a clause in the contract where it permits the employer to terminate the services of the MD on certain grounds. And I think the ground that must have been relied on to have him dismissed is justified, and it's fair enough to look at it. But then again, due process must be followed, because then again, if you dismiss him without following the due process, he'll go to court, argue his case out that I was dismissed unfairly and procedurally, and he'll be paid his dues, he'll be compensated. So I think before he's firing, the relevant authorities or ministry must have followed due process, must have looked at the contractual specifications or stipulations, and look at the law around hiring and firing, so that every aspect is complied with. And I am confident that due process has been followed, and if not, the MD can easily go to court and have his situation have a redress, so that the court can pronounce itself and have him compensated. But then if not, he'll be paid for the remainder of his contractual obligation, and he goes home. I mean, it's as simple as that.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Kigoli. I don't know whether Mr. Wafula and Mr. Fanyamambo do agree with Mr. Kigoli in regards to Mr. Gitari's dismissal, especially you, Mr. Wakili Fanyamambo.
I think I have made it very clear, and I said it, that the person who is in charge of making sure we have electricity, nothing has happened to them. Nothing has happened to KenGen, nothing has happened to Kenya Power, nothing has happened to any other person in charge of production, distribution of electricity in this country. But something has happened to the people who are recipients of electricity in this country. I think I have never seen such high-handedness in my life, and I have never seen such aggravated assault on the employment and labor relation laws of this country. That's an aggravated assault to the Employment and Labor Relations Act, because you cannot have what was an energy problem being resolved by a Minister for Transport and Communication. And we cannot have the people who have continued. You know, Kenya Power is a monopoly. Kenya Power are the only people who will give you a blackout and tell you, sisi ndio tuko. And there's nothing you can do about it. And I think we need to get to the point where we realize that the problem is beyond just this power blackout. We need to get to the point where now we say, let us change our laws. Let us remove this monopoly. Let us give other players an opportunity to produce, distribute, and sell electricity to Kenyans. And I think when they realize competition, then things will change. There was a time when we had something called telecom in this country, and they were the only people who could provide us with telephone communications. And we all used to queue at their booths. You people have no idea. And we had that big 5 coin you'd put, and there are people in a line waiting for you to finish your phone call so that they can also make their phone call. People thought that telecom was a demigod that nobody could do something about. Today we have so many mobile communication companies. At least we have 2, and we are seeing that their competition is helping. We need to get to the point where we say, as a nation, we cannot all rely on one singular supplier for electricity in this country. I mean, we need to liberalize the sector. We need to allow other players to come in. And it's a high time we came and said, wait a minute. Does it mean that only Kenya Power can give electricity to Kenyans? And let's liberalize that sector so that we are not talking of a monopoly and people have a choice. Unfortunately, right now you have no choice.
Well, we'll be waiting to see, and of course, hear what the CS and the Kenya Power MD will be, saying as they appear before the Energy Committee. I want us to, switch gears and talk matters, a bit matters politics, and particularly in regards to the bipartisan talks. Now, last week, at the tail end of last week, the Deputy President, that is Mr. Rigathi Gachagua, and the former Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga did meet at a burial of a former Mau fighter in Nyandarua County. And the Deputy President has been very, very vocal in regards to, dismissing the talks. But before we talk about that particular issue, I want us to listen to what, the two had to say. Because on one hand, Gachagua has openly said, these talks are just a formality. They will not be any fruit. On the other hand, Raila Odinga and his team do say these talks will shape this country. And they're still bones of contention, because the two sides do have a different list of issues. But first of all, let's just listen into what Raila Odinga and Rigathi Gachagua had to say during that particular funeral in Nyandarua County.
The Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua and the leader of the opposition Raila Odinga met here eye to eye during the funeral of Brigadier John Kiboko.
Tunaenda kwa barabara tuko bado kuna shida. Ndio sababu watu ukienda kule Ufaransa, watu kwa barabara, kule Senegal. Sasa nikiji hakuna mbaya watu kuzungumza. Wacha watu wazungumze. Hata kama wewe hutaki kusikia maneno yangu, lakini sikiza tu. Na tena mimi nataka kukuambia, usiwe na wasiwasi. Sisi hatutaki nusu mkati. Mkati gani?
When Raila got up to speak, he took the opportunity to defend his position in relation to the national dialogue, saying that his goal is not to join the government.
Yale yote mimi nishakuwa. Mimi sina haja. Kwa hivyo kaa polepole, usiseme ati sisi hatutaki, wanataka mtu mkati, ameongea na RUTO. Mimi nikutana na RUTO lini? Mimi nimesema yale tuko na maneno swala nyeti nataka yatatuliwe.
Raila explained that the conversation will help to eliminate various issues that Kenyans are going through.
Yale tuko na maneno swala nyeti nataka yatatuliwe. Na hata watu kiwaliza watakwambia wewe. Tulipokuwa tunaongea na wao wakati wa BBI, walikuwa nasema one man, one vote, one shilling. Lakini tutapata suluhu hapo katikati. Tukiwa pamoja kama Wakenya wazalendo tutaweza kutatua shida zetu. Ile kitu ambayo tuwache polisi waache kupiga watu wetu na risasi.
For his part, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has stressed that the promises made to Mau heroes are yet to be fulfilled according to the expectations. Rigathi blaming the governments that have been in power, while claiming that the freedom fighters should get what they deserve. Additionally, he has stated that the Brigadier Kiboko's proposal for the return of the remains of body of Dedan Kimathi, which are believed to be buried in the committee prison, will ensure it has been accomplished, promising to create a committee of 10 people who will help to steer the request.
Ningetaka Prime Minister umesema niko na deni ya huyu mzee, that is true. You are right. Huyu Kiboko Brigadier aliomba Rais William RUTO ya kwamba anajua pahali shujaa wetu Field Marshal Kimathi alizikwa. Na rais akakubali apewe nafasi na wengine twende kamiti itafutwe. Lakini wiki moja tu kabla hatujapanga akakuwa na shida. Leaders of Mau Mau, the senior ones from the 11 counties ya Mlima Kenya wakuje pange la kwangu Sagana, tupange waende kamiti wakae hata kama ni mwezi moja mwezi mbili. Prime Minister umesema utakuja huko ujiunge na hawa karibu. So wewe tutakualika kuja tusaidiane from your experience in committee. If there is some useful information you can offer, tusaidiane.
Brigadier John Kiboko died last week while receiving treatment in Nairobi Hospital. Ruga Ival, Lookuptv.
We are not interested in a nusu mkate government or handshake. Those are not my sentiments, but the sentiments of former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. Mr. Calista Zofula, starting with you. Yes. Will these talks materialize? Because apart from, the hard stance from the Deputy President and of course the war of words between the two sides, the biggest issue on the azimio side is the cost of living, which the president has not once, not twice, or 3 times has said that is not an issue to be discussed.
Yes.
And he wants that out of the table. Now the talks resume today, again, at the Bomas of Kenya. Will these talks, at the end of the day, be fruitful, or will Azimio Lomoja go back to the streets again?
That talks is a waste of time. Listening to Kachagwa speaks the mind of the president and actually the mind of the position of the government. So what they are basically saying is that they have just organized that talk to manage Raila. And they are going to use it against Azimio. Why am I saying so? It's because the kind of things they have structured as an agenda, it will not go well with the people. And that is what William Ruto wants to achieve. He wants to discuss things that eventually he will say, these were the demands of Azimio. And he will use it. He will use them against Azimio la Umoja. So my advice to Azimio is that they need to suspend that talk. They need to tell Kenyans, and the route to taking Kenyans to street is not working. We need to take a different angle. Like for us in Linda Ukadusu, we have taken an unviolent way. We are taking so many cases to court. We are trying to organize a forum where we can bring all people, including religious leaders, so that we can also champion for views without necessarily causing violence and the destruction of properties.
Mr. Fuller,
yeah.
when you talk about going to court, there are certain issues that probably cannot be addressed through the court. For example, the issue of the cost of living, which is top on Azimio's list.
Yes.
How can that be addressed through the courts? The issue of the constitution of the IEBC.
Yes.
These are issues that probably do need engagement, and of course, not just engagement, but as well goodwill from all the players.
Yes. Cost of living is squarely on the government side, because why are we complaining about cost of living? It is because of retrogressive tax system. If the president can be able to manage and implement tax reforms to make sure that when taxing people, he cannot put more luggage on Kenyans to a point where they cannot afford basic needs. And we are saying there is no talk that can be able to solve this. President needs to manage recurrent expenditure. Yesterday he was in Western region. He launched a market less than 16 stalls. That is worth like 5 million. And on a day he's spending over 30 million. So what are we doing as a country? Because I've never seen a successful country being run the way our country is being run. And today he's launching a laboratory somewhere in Kakamega, DVET laboratory. That DVET institution doesn't have enough tuition blocks. So he could have been, he should be launching tuition blocks, not a laboratory. And a laboratory of less than 5 million, for instance, and you are spending over 30 million per day. So we need to start knowing what we are doing as a country, because it seems a lot of expenditures is being used in recurrent expenditure to do politics, and this is just mere corruption. There's nothing that we can say is far from corruption. This is misuse of public funds and the resources, and this is the reason why Africa and Kenya, we are still behind in terms of development.
We'll come to the political bit and the president's tours to the various regions. But Wakili,
yep.
In regards to the dialogue talks, or the bipartisan talks, if you'd love to say that, is Gachagua speaking the mind of the president, like Mr. Callistus Wafula says? And at the end of the day, should Azimio la Umoja be worried about the dismissal of the talks by the deputy president?
I think three things. The first thing is to the people of Nyandarua. I worry deeply when I see the people of Nyandarua sit and think that their problems are at Bomas of Kenya. And they are clapping when the deputy president tells them that hakutakuwa na kuelewana, hatakutakuwa na chochote Bomas, hakutakuwa na handshake, hawataingia kwa serikali. The deputy president is speaking about what worries him and his heart to the people of Nyandarua, and they are clapping. And he's saying nothing to them about the things that concern them and worry them and are important to them. To the ordinary Nyandarua citizen right now, food security is important. Water, fertilizer, school fees for their children. Right now, I'm already in 2 university groups for school fees, something that never used to happen. People have already started doing WhatsApp groups to raise university fee. But what is Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua addressing in a burial? Not even how they are going to help the family of the deceased. Not even how successive governments have neglected Mau Mau. It's about how he does not want to share this power that he has acquired and he's very comfortable with. The other day I saw him with a fleet of 30 cars and I wondered, Where is the emergency? Why does he need 30 vehicles following each other, guzzling fuel? No, alipata serikali haina pesa. They keep reminding us the government had no money. But I like how governments that had no money roll. They roll in 30 cars. They roll in a lot of security. They have fuel guzzlers. There is money to buy new cars. All the ministers have new cars. All of a sudden, all the cars that had been bought by the former regime are useless. They are old. They are not usable. They are dilapidated. That's how governments that found empty coffers roll. So that is my first worry when you talk about what is happening in Bomas, that wananchi are not asking leaders the questions that are important. They are listening to rubbish coming from the leaders talking about their own insecurities. Secondly, the Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga has proven to us every time an election is held that he garners anywhere between 45 to 50% of the total votes cast in this country. Have you not wondered to yourself why the Honorable Onesphas Kipchumba Murkomen, when he speaks of national unity, he speaks of peace, he speaks of coherence, he speaks of the respect for Raila Amolo Odinga, and all the other politicians from Rift Valley speak of respect for the talks. But Mount Kenya leaders are being told to go against Raila Amolo Odinga. What is happening if Rigathi Gachagua was to listen to some of us and he doesn't have to? He's been put in a very antagonistic position. He is fighting a man who has got close to 50% of the total votes usually cast in this country, and he has proven over the years, whether he vies with Mudavadi or he vies with Kalonzo as the running mate, or even if he was to run with me as the running mate or with Martha Karua, he would still get close to 49 or 51% of the total votes cast in every election. So what Rigathi Gachagua has done, he has put himself up against Raila Amolo Odinga. What will happen is that he will create enmity between himself and him. And he'll create enmity between his supporters and supporters of Raila Amolo Odinga. And I don't know how many supporters the Honorable Rigathi Gachagua has, because he's never run an election and then we are able to know how many people would vote for him other than the people of Madeira. Now, in the event that William Samoei Ruto does partner with Raila Amolo Odinga, which he will do, the Honorable Rigathi Gachagua would have been left as an enemy of Raila Amolo Odinga on his own on the other side. He's being carved for isolation, and he's isolating himself, and he's not aware. By the time he realizes what is happening and he's dropped, because there's no guarantee that he'll be the running mate for Kenya Kwanza in 2027. There is no guarantee. So he should be thoroughly careful, because if he was left in the cold as not the running mate, and Raila Amolo Odinga has united with William Ruto, which I dare tell you will happen, there will be a referendum coming from Bomas. Take this to the bank. Remember, I have said on this show that there is Musalia Mudavadi, who is the Prime Cabinet Secretary for something that doesn't exist, is keen to have his position entrenched in the Constitution. And that is why it's one of the subjects of discussion. The Kenya Kwanza administration is keen to have the office of the official leader of opposition created, and a powerful one. They are keen to have that, so the talks will go on. And for those two things to happen, MPs are also keen to have the NGCDF, which is an illegal thing. They are keen to have it enshrined in the Constitution with all its illegalities. And only a referendum can give us that. Now, history has proven to us that sitting governments are not very popular. In 2 years, if a referendum is held in 2025 or 2026, if it does happen, William Samoei Ruto would not want to be on this side of the referendum and have Raila Amolo Odinga on the opposing side of the referendum. Because what will happen? A repeat of 2005, where a sitting government loses in a referendum against an opposition. So it is William Samoei Ruto is keen on having this referendum, but with Raila Amolo Odinga on his side, not on the other side. Because if you lose a referendum 2 years to the election, it is usually more like a vote of no confidence in that sitting government. And it has bad ramifications in terms of the next election. So I can tell you for free that Bomas talks will happen. I can tell you a referendum will emanate from them. And I can tell you in that referendum, there's a very high likelihood, like what happened in 2005. Rigathi Gachagua might lead the no camp. And William Ruto and Raila Amolo Odinga will be on the other side leading a yes camp.
Well, interesting, because you just beg to say time will tell. Coming to Mr. Kigwele, and even as Mr. Wakili Fanyamambo Kinuthia talks about, referendums, or there being a possible referendum in the run-up or in between now and the general elections in 2027, and they were pitting the Deputy President and former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. It's interesting because Rigathi Gachagua on his side has been very, very vocal, talking about and of course lobbying for the support for the Kenya Kwanza government in 2027. He's been talking about how they will open shares for everybody who was not part of this particular government in 2026, and they're barely a year into office. Mr. Kigoli, I'd want to hear from you and know, in regards to these talks, first of all, there is the notion that it is a two-legged talk. It is the opposition and the government. Should it be three-legged? Should the common man, the Wananchi, be represented in those talks to begin with? And secondly, do you believe that these talks will be fruitful and in one way or the other probably lead to a referendum like Wakilia leads to?
Well, at least two-legged represent humanity. If it is three-legged, I don't know what creature that would be. But in any sense, when you hear the sentiments of key leaders make about these talks, it waters down the seriousness and the efficiency of them altogether. Because when the president and the deputy are out there talking to masses and to people, they in some way kind of castigate the talks, especially the deputy president. He doesn't appear to be any supportive of the dialogue. But we listen to the movers of the dialogue, or the handlers, the people in the committee. They say, ignore the voices out there and listen to what we are saying. But then I think in this kind of talks, the government is scoring a lot because they have managed to keep the opposition calm, and the situation in the country is relatively peaceful. So government is able to carry on with its programs, its agenda. And I think it is not even about bringing in the people or to make it three-legged, as you say. It is more about the honesty with which we are moving these talks, the end game of these talks. And actually, when you listen to the opposition, their heart and mind is in these talks, because it looks like a lot of what they hope for is in these talks. But when you listen to the government side, they are kind of dismissive, like we can have or not have this conversation at all. In any case, we are in power, and for the next, I think, 4 years, we are guaranteed to remain in power. So for the opposition, the talks mean the whole world to them. But for government, it is that sort of a forced engagement where you don't like somebody, but you just have to get along with them, because then again, what else do you do? So the president might silently be interested in the outcome of this conversation because he is the president, and everything will stop at his doorstep, And when all comes to show, it will be, president, this is up to you now to decide. So there is a lot more on his desk than his deputy, because then again, Kenyans will hold President RUTO accountable, and he has to stand up like a leader with his principles as we know him, and really assert his authority. And by the way, then the president should refuse to be coerced into negotiations and agreements that do not yield good for the country, because the country is under his leadership, and all of us are under him, because then again, we have a working constitution, and the president was legally and validly elected as the institution relevant or concerned ascertained. And I think there was an issue, if you allow me a little bit of latitude, that I think needs to be clarified. The issue of MD Kenya Airports Authority. He was dismissed because he failed to provide power supply when power outage happened. He was not fired because Kenya Power failed. He was fired because the generators at JKIA failed to operate, and that was the sole reason as to why he was fired. Finally, as you have all witnessed, the demonstrations that have been happening in this country have been painting the country very badly internationally, and the country is looking unstable, because the demonstrations have always turned violent. And there are a number of reasons these demonstrations turn violent. Number one, when you look closely to these demonstrations, they remain peaceful until the police react, all right? So we get this helter-skelter thing because the police attack, protesters who are peacefully marching along the road. What if the police remained calm and never did anything, but just too bad? Like, we are ready to deal with elements that are seen to flout the law and want to take advantage of a situation. But then again, in these demonstrations, not everybody in it is good, because there are those who want to take advantage of the situation and make a gain where they did not work. So sometimes you find the police are provoked, sometimes they are pushed to act. But then again, largely we've seen the police trying to disperse people who are constitutionally allowed to do what they are doing, and the police are supposed to provide security and not to harm these citizens. So probably in these talks, and you've seen government try to bring in also the agenda, the issue of CDF, the issue of the Prime Cabinet Secretary. They want it set in the law. They want it guaranteed in the law. And my colleague there said CDF is unconstitutional, like it is illegal. You see, the courts provided an avenue for which the government to ensure CDF is aligned with the law. And that's why it is called NG CDF, National Government CDF, because as it were, Constitutional Development Fund, with this new constitution, it was illegal. But then again, a framework was brought and a window opened on how government should make it compliant with the law. And we can all agree that CDF is or has done some good work when you walk into constituencies, especially those that are run by MPs who know what they are doing. And it's not like every MP elected know what to do. Some of them are just out there to cut deals and not even do anything. You can walk into constituencies and realize the last projects, notable projects you can see, were maybe even 10 years ago. And some of these MPs just take their work so casually, and that's why their constituencies are not developing very fast as they should.
Mr. Kigoli, just before we go on a short break, Wakili Fanyamambo has alluded to there being a possibility of a referendum, as one of the outcomes of these particular talks. And Raila Odinga, the former Prime Minister, and Dr. William Ruto possibly being on one side of this particular referendum, if at all it will happen. Now, one, is there a possibility that these talks will lead to a referendum, in your own opinion? And two, the current president, that is William Ruto, was really against the BBI initiative, which sort of wanted to, change the constitution. You'd want to presume that was because he was not in power then, and if changes were to be made, it would possibly not favor him. But now, because he's in power, do you think he's, probably leaning towards the side of, having a referendum? Now, having it in mind that he's also advocating for the official office, or the office of the official leader of opposition.
When you look at our constitution, there are protected clauses that when you touch or try to alter, then it has to go back to the people. When you talk about the structure of government, if you want to amend that, then it means the people have to weigh in, like it is the people who will have to decide. But if it doesn't have to touch on the protected clauses, then it is easier if the two teams can agree. It goes through a parliamentary initiative and passing becomes very easy. But if then we are talking about establishment of office of official opposition, the establishment of the office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary, you see, these are altering the structure of government, all right? So that means then the changes could touch on some protected clauses that then the people will have to decide. And yes, not every government will always warm up to the idea of a referendum. Look at what happened in Britain. When the Prime Minister then, David Cameron, proposed that the British people would be given a fair chance to make a decision as to whether they want to remain in the European Union. And what happened was that the Britons refused the idea of remaining in the European Union, and they voted against staying in the European Union, and they left. So Prime Minister David Cameron then had to resign, because then again he has lost the referendum. And it becomes very embarrassing for a government to lose a referendum a year or two to general elections. It really puts a dent on your image, and it reflects that probably the people are not in consonance with what you're doing. So the government would be very cautious as to what they want to do. And yes, I agree with my colleague that President William Ruto would want to have Raila Odinga in his corner as a matter of priority, because if you put Raila Odinga on the opposing side on matters such as the referendum, it becomes a very tricky affair, because then again, government would be limited as to pushing this agenda, and because then again there is the state use of state resources to push for an agenda, which of course would become some legal issue. So I think having Raila Odinga in President William Ruto's corner would make a lot of sense for him, because then the president would be less focused on even what is going to happen, because then again, who is opposing? And if you just 1 second, when you look at what Professor PLO Lumumba and the lobby group are doing, they are touching on some protected clauses that would require popular initiative. And then again, if these talks are going to lead into a referendum, there is a possibility they could consolidate what they are discussing and agreeing on with some of the lobby groups' propositions as to what this constitution should have in terms of changes.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Kigoli. Well, we'll come back and touch on the issue of, PLO Lumumba and his, team talking about there is that need to review the constitution. But we would love to go on a short break, gentlemen, but we'll come back with, more issues, including the sugar politics in this country. The revival they ever talk about, we are reviving the sugar industry, especially Mumias, a sugar company, but that has not materialized. The president was talking about that issue yesterday, but that after this short break. Don't go away.
Realize your home ownership dream by investing in Brookvale Tuala, a magnificent prime residential property located in Ongata, Rongai. Brookvale Tuala by Safaricom Investment Cooperative overlooks the majestic Ngong Hills and lies only 24 kilometers from Nairobi CBD. The project boasts of well-serviced plots with a perimeter wall, graded roads and a borehole. 50 by 100 plots are going for 1.4 million shillings with a flexible payment plan of up to 6 months. To book your plot, call 0729 121212 today. Safaricom Investment Cooperative, the investment partner of choice.
Infinity Industrial Park is one of the largest private industrial parks located along Eastern Bypass, Nairobi, which provides modern infrastructure for smooth operations for industries and business enterprises. Infinity Industrial Park offers world-class amenities and facilities with wide roads, a police station, a power substation, fire station, public transport stage, hospital, and shopping mall. In addition, Infinity Industrial Park also offers CCTV cameras, 24-hour private armed security patrol, sewer, water, fiber optic cable, and 3-phase power connection, added to public utility, canteen, and dining areas. Sail on the golden opportunity to invest in Infinity Industrial Park, fully serviced warehouses at a special price of 3,569 Kenyan shillings per square foot. For more inquiries, visit our website infinityindustrialpark.com.
So the story we're telling today is a story of passion in practice that grows into business.
We have partnered with the Youth Fund, talk to as many youth as possible and work with them, hold their hand.
It is an expose of captains who have decided to take on challenges in different sectors and industries within the country.
My mentors had also not started as CEOs. They grew up and they showed me how they grew in the organizations. So that's what motivated me to actually do international business. And it was a good experience.
As an individual, support in bridging that care gap, part of me also to offer a solution. I want to leave this world a better place than I found it.
This is the Captain's Arena. My name is Simba Elijah Charles Kiage.
As the night falls, we come to life to bring you a comprehensive broadcast from the numerous events happening across our 47 counties.
When it breaks, it matters, and each story is important.
If it's Thursday, join me, Nancy Lima, and my able panelists as we break down the law jargons and analyze the Constitution in a way only you can understand.
The news cycle never stops, neither does time. We cover each and every sector and present to you factual and accurate occurrences. This is where facts win the day. Join me,
Nancy Lima,
Ian Keitany, Tuesday, every Wednesday,
Thursday,
as from 9 p.m. on The Insight, only on Lookuptv.
Well, thank you very much for staying with us up to now, and we've been talking about matters, the bipartisan talks, but of course the national blackout. But on to the biggest issue, I believe, this particular morning, and that is the reviving of the sugar industry in the Western Kenya region. We do know that that particular part of the country heavily relies on sugarcane production, that translating to, of course, the revival of these sugar industries in that region a priority. Now, previous administrations have, pumped in money to revive this particular industry, and the largest chunk of money that I do remember is when President Uhuru Kenyatta, the former president, after meeting with legislators from the Western region, around 25 by then, led by the likes of Sakwa Bunyasi, he ordered the release of around 1 billion to oversee the revival of Mumias Sugar Company, something that did not materialize. Now the president, and then, before we delve much into this issue, I want us to listen to what the president had to say yesterday, while, of course, on his 5-day tour of the Western region of this country, Western region, and he specifically touched on the issue of a revival of the sugar industries. So let's listen in first, and then I'll be engaging with our guests or panelists on that particular issue, because it is an issue of key concern, because taxpayers' money is being pumped year in, year out to revive these companies, but that is not happening. So what is the big issue here? What is the problem? And how can it be solved? Because according to President William RUTO, his administration is the one administration that will solve this particular mess. Let's listen in to what he had to say.
Nashukuru waziri, mlikuja mkaungana na gavana wa hapa, na ndani ya karibu chini ya mwaka moja, hiyo majengo yote tumejenga, tumekamilisha. Leo nimefungua rasmi na nita handover kwa ndugu yangu Mheshimiwa Otuoma. Sasa yeye na wale beach management units ya hapa na wavuvi, na tumesema hao wavuvi wote waingie katika cooperative ndio wasimamie hii facility chini ya county, ndio hii facility iwe faida kwenu. Tuko na mpango ya
It It is during a Thanksgiving service in Bungoma County that a seemingly infuriated President William Ruto decried the mismanagement of sugar companies in the Western region, noting that his administration will work with private investors to oversee the revival of various sugar factories in the region, while calling out previous investors for hoodwinking sugarcane farmers in the region.
Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results is madness. Yani, kufanya kitu unafanya, unarudia na unangojea matokeo tofauti, matokeo ni yale yale, hiyo ni kuwa mjinga na kuwa wazimu. Na sisi bana watu wazimu. So tunataka formula ambayo italete serikali na private sector tufanye pamoja ili kampuni ya Nzoia iweze kujisimamia.
In a bid to ensure the country's food secure, the head of state has continued to assure farmers of his government's desire to enhance production in a bid to increase yields, while hinting at a plan to procure milk coolers to cushion milk farmers from incurring losses.
Nataka tukubaliane shilingi ngapi mkulima atalipwa kwa maziwa. Kama ni shilingi 50 kwa lita moja ama shilingi 55 ama itafika shilingi ngapi, we need to agree. Already nimecommission watu wanafanya hiyo kazi. Ili tuhakikishe kwamba ninyi kama wakulima mnatusaidia kuzalisha maziwa katika taifa letu la Kenya. Kwa sasa tunatumia pesa ya Kenya kuagiza maziwa, karibu lita bilioni 1 zinaagizwa zinakuja Kenya. Ng'ombe ya watu wengine, na sisi tuko na uwezo ya kufanya hiyo kazi.
Ruto, however, called on the opposition to fulfill its oversight mandate constitutionally, with his deputy calling on the Luhya community to rally behind Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi and Speaker Moses Wetangula.
Vile kama wanataka tutengeneze ofisi ya leader of opposition kule bunge, niko tayari to fund na serikali ya Kenya. Awe anatoa statement kutoka asubuhi mpaka jioni, hii serikali imekosa hapa, hii serikali haijafanya hii serikali imekosa pale, mimi sina problem.
These two leaders waliangalia siasa ya Kenya, wakaona hii jamii ya magharibi imepotea. They analyzed and made a wise and fulfilling decision to take their people to government. We want to salute these two leaders. But you must do much better than that. You must have unity of purpose behind these two leaders and come and work with President William Ruto so that the struggle for scarce resources, you are well represented and united.
KOTU Secretary General Francis Atoli, while defending Ruto's administration, noted that the economic situation was a global issue, while echoing the decision by opposition allied governors to support the Kenya Kwanza administration.
Muache ubinafsi, selfish. One company from South Nyanza, Migori, mpaka huku, ya miwa peke yake. You build big things.
Roga Evil, Lookuptv.
The sugar mess, or sugar politics, if you'd call it that. Beginning with you, Mr. Calista Zofula. Mumias Sugar Company was once the biggest sugar producing company in this country. In fact, it used to produce around 60% of the sugar produced locally. But that is no longer the case because private companies led by the likes of West Sugar Company, Naitiri, all of them, by the way, under the Rai family led by its owner Jaswant Singh Rai, took over the industry ever since the collapse of Mumias Sugar. And by the way, the Rai family, the Rai group of companies now oversees the production of at least 43% of the local sugar in the country. That is a very, very big percentage. Where is the problem in regards to the revival of the sugar industry in this country?
The problem is with the cartels. Unless we dismantle cartels, we will not be able to revive the sugar industry. And what led to collapsing of Mumias Sugar Company? It was cartels planning and repackaging, importing cheap sugar from India and repackaging them using the Mumias plant. That is what led to collapsing of that sugar industry. And I agree with the president when he said that he need to partner with private investors to revive the industry. That it makes sense because to me, we need total privatization of the sugar industry. And also, because somebody mentioned, the other panelists have said that we need CTF, we need all those things that I has mentioned, that we need to go to a referendum to reinforce them. What I want to tell you is that right now, the Auditor General is unable to deliver accurate report because he doesn't have that capacity. We have diversified kitties and everything is like now we have allowed people to misuse public money. So we need to know, why are we putting members of parliament, allowing them to run CTF, for instance, because it is control it conflicts with their mandates, because they are supposed to legislate to legislate on issues of corruption, and they are also given mandate to run some developments. So we need to know, because if we were to go to a referendum, we need to go to a referendum to stop such a kind of things. Corruption is in the sugar industry, and yet the Auditor General is unable to even deliver accurate report about the county governments, accurate report about the national government spending, and we complaining because the public companies are also being run by politicians, and they are supposed to be audited. So unless we give the capacity, the Auditor General capacity to deliver real-time reporting, we will not be able to solve the mess at the sugar industries.
Wakili, the president talked about partnering with private investors, but at the same time, he specifically took a dig at Mr. Rai, because in his own words, he said, hii mambo ya kuja kuambiwa Kiingereza moja mbili hapa, sijui Muhindi, sijui Rai, hii mambo hakuna. Now, the Rai Sugar Company, led by President Rai, and there's the other, farm led by, is it Mr. Sarai? Now, the private sugar factories are the ones producing a huge chunk of the sugar produced in the country, and companies like Mumias, they've been sinking in debt. Nzoia, currently, most of the sugar companies in Western Kenya have been closed down to allow sugarcane to mature, because there were cases of these companies harvesting sugarcane when it is not that mature. So companies have been closed down. The president said yesterday that the government will clear around 117 billion, the debt that is owed by these particular companies. But the biggest question is, because he says it is his administration that will oversee the revival of these particular industries, what will it take Mr. William Ruto and his administration to oversee the revival of these particular industries? Because at the end of the day, it is not only about producing sugar or the government being able to fund these companies to produce sugar, but at the end of the day as well, a company like Mumias, it employed thousands of people. Now these people are all unemployed. That is another crisis, because as a country, one of the biggest problems that we are facing is the issue of unemployment. So what will it take Mr. Ruto, or His Excellency President Dr. William Samoei Ruto, to oversee the revival of these companies and doing away with these cartels? Because even during the campaign period, he was very clear saying, I will deal with these cartels, I will take them head on. So what will it take?
Thank you. I think to start with, the Sugar Act, Section 14, 15 and 16 is what has created this mongoloid called Mumias Sugar, because what they have done is that they made it very difficult for people to benefit from their own sugarcane. Because the Sugar Act provides now that the Sugar Board gives licenses to people to be able to process their own sugar. Now, I want you to get this clearly, that a milk farmer can milk his cow, take his milk to a kiosk nearby, and process that milk in a different form, turn it into tea, and sell tea, so they've added value to their milk and make more money from their milk. A potato farmer is allowed to take his potatoes, go and peel them, cut them into chips, fry them, and have a fast food joint so that he gets more value from his potato because he's added value and he's now selling fries. A farmer who is growing jugu karanga in any part of this country is allowed to take their jugu karanga and turn them into peanut butter and add value and sell for more money. But a sugarcane farmer is seen as a demon, is put in such a bad place that he's not allowed to harvest his sugarcane, put it through a jaggery and make it either sukari nguru or some sugar or any other form, including ethanol, that would mean he has added value to his sugarcane to make money. So the Sugarcane Act, the people of Western Kenya need to realize, is the enemy in the room. And the president is not addressing that. And nobody in this country is addressing that. And think about it, that the farmer of maize is allowed to take his maize from the farm, his own maize that he grew. And he's allowed to go to this place, they sift maize inaitwa nini, the kawaida tinga, and you saga your maize. And it becomes ugali, and you can sell it as unga ya ugali, number 2 from the Kisiagi. But a sugarcane farmer in this country is not allowed to touch his own sugarcane and change it into something else. That is where the problem is. So this thing of putting money into Mumias is not going to make sense. Putting money into Nzoia is not going to make sense. Fighting importers of sugar is not going to make sense. All we need to do is to change the Sugar Act and allow a farmer in Western to have his own jaggery, cut his own sugarcane, turn it even to molasses if he wants. If people want to buy molasses, why are you fighting him from making molasses? There is a high demand for sukari nguru. I don't know what's the English name for it. And the people of Western provinces, from there he can tell you they know how to make sukari nguru. And there is demand for it and people need it. But if you go to many police stations within Western Kenya, he'll tell you, you'll find those jaggeries zimeshikwa. Ukijaribu tu kugurumisha kamoja, kanashikwa, kanapelekwa police station. We are killing our people and pretending that we are interested in them. Our problem is the Sugar Act. Go change that act. Allow a sugarcane farmer to do what a person who grows peanuts does. He takes his peanuts, he goes, anatoa ngozi, anazismash, anatengeneza peanut butter, anazurura akiuza peanut butter. But a sugarcane farmer is not allowed to cut his own sugarcane and turn it into anything different from sugarcane and sell it in any other different form. Finally, why Brazil is successful with sugar and we wonder why they sell to us sugar cheaply is because for them, they use the sugarcane to make ethanol. Sugar is a byproduct. It is the last thing they had in their mind. The first thing they had in mind was ethanol to run their industries and some of their cars that use ethanol in Brazil. So sugar is a byproduct and therefore in fact it's like, yeah, there's something else here we can sell after we've made our main thing. So this one, sell it for anything. For us on the other side, the thinking is that sugar is the main product. And things like ethanol in a country that is having blackouts and lack of enough energy and high costs of fuel, we haven't thought about it. The Western Belt is capable of giving us a lot of ethanol that if you read the industrial uses of ethanol, you'll be amazed at what we can do with ethanol. But what are we doing? We don't even think of producing ethanol. I don't even know what happens when they produce sugar So the industries in Brazil have been configured to make ethanol as the main thing and sugar as the byproduct. That's why it's very cheap. And this country, we are here wondering what is hitting us where. The president said that if you do the same thing over and over again and expect different results, then you are mad. And I think we shall continue to be mad because I haven't had conversations about ethanol and I haven't had conversations about changing the Sugar Act. And I haven't had conversations about letting the people of Western Kenya own their own jaggery and turn their sugar into whatever they want, as long as it's not a banned commodity.
Okay, before I engage David Kigoli, you've talked about the Sugar Act, and that being one of the biggest, stumbling block into making this
sugar. Start with 14, 15, 16 sections of it.
Yes, but this is the same act that applies, to these private industries, which, by the way, and they're not in, they're not in any debt. They're making profits. So what is the difference? Can we allude to as well mismanagement of these?
No. I think we don't get it. This board has made it very difficult for Wafula Nafula Nandoa, someone who is a sugarcane farmer, to be able to process their sugar into anything else. The persons who are getting it are Nzoia Sugar, Mumia Sugar Company, I don't know, the big fat cats are the people who are able to get this license. This was a bottom-up government, or at rather that's what they promised when they were campaigning. We haven't seen a deliberate effort to make it possible for the ordinary Wafula, somewhere in Mumias, to be able to get a license to make sugar on small scale. Who said that a factory, like Atwoli was saying, must be big? What is wrong with me having the size of my sitting room and making just 2 gunias of sugar that is enough for my family? If a gunia of sugar, for example, is 9,000 shillings, and I'm able to make only 2 gunias, and I'm able to get 18,000, why would the government have a problem with me selling 2 gunias of sugar? Why do we have to have a big industry? Why India is successful is because they have micro industries. Small industries being run by different people, and each of them contributes to the national GDP. The government must understand that the person who plants maize on half an acre and the person who plants maize on 3,000 acres are all Kenyans. And what we need to do is to let this person who plants maize on half an acre harvest his half an acre of maize, turn it into unga ya kisiagi, and sell to those neighbors who are willing to buy unga ya kisiagi pale anapimiwa kwa duka hivi. That Kenyan must be allowed to do that. It's the same thing for the sugar person. That the person who is making 3,000 acres of maize and taking to National Cereals and Produce Board and selling so that unga is produced should be equal to this other person. So sugar, the problem we are having now is that our focus is on big industries. We are forgetting that a Kenyan can have a small micro industry. Look at the bottled water industry. We have big companies like Dasani and Keringet, and we have smaller companies that produce water. In fact, some are just an open shop. You've seen them nowadays. You bring your 20-liter bottle, they refill for you. What's wrong with that person making 3,000 shillings a day? He doesn't have to make 10 million like Dasani or Keringet. He's okay making his 2,000 shillings a day. So our sugar industry is being killed by people who think that there must be a big company where they'll be coming to address employees. We don't need that. What we need is to set standards for micro production of sugar so that everybody meets the KEBS standards that have been set for micro production of sugar. Ama sukari nguru, because that's not a banned product. And those other things. Now for ethanol, again, standards can be set that it will not go into production of illicit alcohol, that government can offer to buy, because there's a lot of industrial use. Let me tell you, there are factories that if they found ethanol today, it would save them so much, because ethanol is a source of energy. So we need a leadership that is pragmatic and future thinking.
Thank you very much. Let me just engage Mr. Kigoli. Mr. Kigoli, I don't know if you can hear me. There's the whole issue of sugar company, the sugar industry revival in this country, and we are talking about doing this, and the president has been talking about doing the same thing over and over again. I'm told we'll be connecting with Mr. Kigoli in a few, but Wakili and Mr. Callistus Wafula, moving just briefly away from the sugar politics, the president and his deputy have been touring the country in what has been termed by Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua as, quote-unquote, launching development projects. Now, Gachagua yesterday alluded to the development tours, or what he says, to the need by the government to counter the opposition who was spreading rumors about what the government has not done, what the government is doing, which he says sometimes is inaccurate. But that goes ahead to to bring back into play, it's like we're in some sort of a political or campaign mood once again. President William Ruto is barely 1 year into office, and he says he'll be doing this until his term comes to an end. He's on a 5-day tour of the Western Kenya region. He was recently or fresh from a 5-day Mount Kenya tour. Before going to Western Kenya, he toured Nyandarua, again in the Mount Kenya region. He toured Baringo, and he was in Uasin Gishu. What does all these quote-unquote development tours paint to us or to the country politically? Because if you look at the projects, some of the projects that the president is launching, and this has caused uproar, even on social media, many Kenyans are talking about, and Mr. Kalista has alluded to this, the president will be launching something that probably you'd expect a member of parliament to be launching.
Yes.
Is there a problem with the president going around the country launching these quote-unquote development projects, starting with you, Mr. Kalista Zafula?
Let me tell you that what he's doing is politics. And the value of his tours, we are not seeing, because if you are launching a project of 5 million and you are spending over 30 million per day, so what are we getting? Because this is politics, and the question I have to ask is that these developed countries, have we seen the president of Russia, for instance, touring from every corners of the country, or the president of China, or the president chancellors of Germany? Because if we want to prosper, we must look at the developed countries. What are they doing? Because our president is working from a rooftop of a car, and the spending of government seemingly is just on politics, because he is in Western region. He will spend over 150 million, and he will launch a projects less than 50 million. So that is misuse of public funds and resources. And we are saying Kenyans need to wake up. This is a time people need to voice out, because I've seen there is reluctance on civil society. Even the church leaders have become also like they are part of the government. They support government to do injustice to the people. We need people to start voicing out. Church should be, or religious leaders should be on forefront, and the civil society. Currently, when you look around, there is no formidable civil society. Maybe just Linda Ukadusi that is coming up, and we have taken, like today we are giving a press statement. There's some members of our team are at JKIA. They have gone there to issue a demand letter to know how JKIA managed the arrivals and departure during the on 25 when we had a power problem. So we are saying the president is misusing public fund and resources. The number of cars they are using, the number of trips they are moving around, it seems they are not taking serious their work, and that is something that we need to call them out.
Wakili, is it about launching development projects, or are we back to some sort of a full campaign mode?
I have no idea what's going on in Kenya Kwanza administration, because the conversation that Kenyans are speaking right now we are overburdened with the cost of fuel. We are overburdened with the cost of unga. We are overburdened with taxation. We have a problem with the way police are handling the citizens. The Wananchi have a different set of problems from what the government seems to be addressing. When you come, for example, open a lab in a place or an institution that's a TVET, and parents are telling you the principal problem we have is that there used to be capitation for schools, including institutions of higher learning. You have removed it, made life expensive for us, made it impossible for us to pay for TVET, and then you've opened a lab. Your lab ni akina nani watakuja kutumia? I think the principal question should be, right now, on my WhatsApp, for the first time in a long time, I have found, nowadays you wake up in the morning, you find you've been added to a WhatsApp group. It's for university fees, something that never used to happen in the very recent past. Now, people have realized that to take a child to university this September is a tall order. A lot of money is needed. And then you have a government that is coming to launch for you a borehole, a government that is coming to launch for you a lab, a government that is coming to tell you about 2027, a deputy president who is telling you about how you increase your shares in government. And you're wondering, what do I care about shares in government? My most immediate need for September right now, for many parents, this week, leo, kesho, mpaka Friday, is to take their children back to school. And the government has removed capitation from government schools. So we have a government that is not speaking to the needs of Kenyans. Kenyans right now, if you ask them, they'll tell you, 1, I need school fees for my child. 2, I need transport. Kuna mtoto hii Kenya hamjui, when this government started playing with how distribution of opportunities for high schools is done, today there are children who are leaving Kitale to go and study in Mombasa. We have my son's school somewhere within Mount Kenya. There are children who are leaving Malindi today so that they are in school in Nanyuki. What sense did it make? How many national schools has that child left within their locality? A child is spending 4,000 shillings on fare one way to a school. And we have a government here that is telling them about development projects. Save the parent this 4,000. There is a lot of good national schools within Mombasa County and within Kwale and Kilifi and Malindi that this child would have gotten. And another one is leaving Kitale to go and study again in Mombasa. How many schools amepita, including the schools in Nairobi and Machakos and all these other places, to go there surely? We need to have a government that is sensitive to the needs of the people. University placements has just happened. You wake up in the morning, you live somewhere in Kiambu, your child has been invited to a university somewhere in Kisii. Now you have to start preparing for hostel accommodation for that child. And whereas there was a university very close to you where the child would have walked to school. In the United States, you know you're not allowed to have your child going to a school outside your constituency or the equivalent of a ward. Primary school, your child must go to the nearest school. They don't, not unless under very special circumstances, you would not be allowed to take your child to a school that is far from them. Now here we have a country that the government is literally taking people and scattering them all over the country so that their parents can suffer in taking them to school. So I do not want to listen to Kenya Kwanza. Anytime I listen to them, sometimes I get diabolical ulcers because they take us to places where Kenyans do not want to be and they do not listen to the concerns of Kenyans.
Let me ask you, because talking about matters of education and specifically the university fees, because the first years who are set to join universities, there are various universities starting next month. Now, the government says there's the new university funding model. But as it stands, students are now forced to go, and even parents, to go for cheaper courses at the expense of ability. Because at the end of the day, if me, personally as a student, I want to pursue, let's say for example, actual science, but it's too expensive, my parent can't afford, and I feel like I had the ability to do this. I'll have to find a course that is cheaper, that maybe I do want to pursue, or I deem as not fit in regards to my own ability. Now, and again, number two, the capitation for CBC was delayed, and this brought about a whole crisis in the curriculum. Are we also foreseeing another problem in terms of disbursement of this capitation? Because if at all the money will not be disbursed on time, as has always been the case, then we'll be having another cash crunch crisis in these universities. So what can the government do to ensure that, first of all, we avoid this crisis? And if at all the parents are lamenting about this particular model, especially the funding model, can the Ministry of Education and the President have to, or do they have to sit down and relook at this model to ensure that we do not, at the end of the day, force someone to go for a cheaper course at the expense of his or her own ability?
You know, I think you people don't understand where the problem is. You are saying, can the government sit down and discuss how to improve the education sector? Who is this sitting down? Is it the cabinet that our president has admitted and told us is incompetent and does not know what is happening in their ministries? Is that the government you are saying that needs to sit down and sort out our education mess?
If they cannot, who can?
There is something called meritocracy. It is about choosing the right person for the job. I keep saying there are 50 million Kenyans. Why was there a rush to appoint, for example, Machogu to be Minister for Education? Why was there a rush to appoint Aisha Jumu to head our civil service? Why was there a rush to appoint Moses Kuria, who insults everybody he comes across, to become Minister for Trade? And now even the US has told him he cannot travel to them. They have refused, it's been on the news, they've refused to even have meetings with him because they are afraid he's going to insult them. When you get the wrong people and give them plum government positions, and then you start wondering why things are not, how will they happen? This person hasn't got the capacity to even think of what to do to change that ministry. This person is sitting there and wondering, like now you've had the reforms they want to do in the education sector, to stop calling schools national, provincial, and district. That is the biggest, best idea they could think about. That's how to change the education sector. That there is no school that will be called national. How does that help a parent? How does that help a child? Unless the president shuts down for a minute, dissolves this cabinet, and starts picking men and women on merit, people who will bring something new to the table that Kenyans have not had before in the education sector, or people who, even if you don't bring new things, will listen to Kenyans and bring to the table what Kenyans are saying, because Kenyans are very clear on what they want. They are very clear. They have told us what they want. The problem is the government is doing what it wants to do. So even if that cabinet sits for 3.5 years, the people who are sitting on that cabinet are not possessed of the ability to bring something new. And so nothing will happen. Meritocracy is about looking out, literally sitting and saying, this is a good person. This person has good ideas. This person is capable. This person is genius.
The problem
and
is
bringing them to the table so that their genius runs the nation. I have told you on this show before, animals, don't let the most foolish one lead them. The cow that you see having a bell on it is usually the most intelligent cows. It knows where the pastures are, it knows where the river is, it knows where the lions are. That is the cow that the Maasais put the bell on. And it always leads the other cows to where they usually come back with what fed, because it knows where the pastures are. They usually come back not thirsty. They usually come back safe from the route that hyenas use. Now what Kenyans have done, they've taken the cow that does not know the direction to the pastures. They've taken the cow that does not know the direction to the river. They've taken the cow that does not know where the hyenas are, and they've put a bell on that cow. And it is leading the other cows to the hyenas, and they are being eaten. It is leading to the other cows to sewage water instead of clean river water, and they are drinking it and they have stomach problems. This cow is leading the other cows to the pastures that are bewitched. Zilikuwa zimepigwa dawa ya kuspray weeds ziishe. And the Kenyans are eating that grass and they are dying. Unless and until you get to the point where you say, wait a minute, you need a cow that knows the way to wear the bell and lead the others and bring them back safely, then Kenya will be safe.
Well, even as you know, we wrap up this particular conversation, there's one other thing that it's 13 years since we had the new constitution, and there's now the lobby group, like I alluded to, led by PLO Lumumba, that says there's need to amend the constitution. First of all, recently we're marking 10 years of devolution. In your capacity as the Secretary General of Operation Linda Ugatuzi, do you believe it is time? And would you join the movement, even as an organization, to, of course, relook at the articles or sections of this constitution and say, yes, we need changes here? Because one of the things that PLO Lumumba and the team want to solve is the issue of inclusivity. Because they had a press conference yesterday and they said inclusivity is one of the big issue, the winner takes it all issue. So from where you sit as an organization, do you support the move?
I think what we need to do right now is to enforce the available laws. Going to amend the constitution will not help, because already we have some laws which advocate for inclusivity, and the current regime doesn't seem to be embracing them. So we need to enforce the constitution. A referendum may come if we have managed to enforce the laws that we have. again, William Ruto is very happy. We are discussing about education. And education is an equalizer. That is what makes, what joins between the rich and the poor. That is the only way a person from a poor community may emerge and become someone. So we will not allow William Ruto to bring or to increase school fees to a point where the people from poor family or our children from poor families will not be able to access education. And we as Linda Ukatusi, we have taken a stand on it. We are preparing a petition to force the government to make education affordable, because that is a basic need. That is one of the basic needs that we cannot allow anyone to tamper with it. We will file a petition to Parliament, and if need to be, we also prepare a petition to High Court to stop the government from affecting the education, because we have realized that when you talk, when we sit here and just talk and allow, maybe there are also individual commercial activists, people who pretend that they are doing this thing, but on the way, we don't see them finishing what they have started. As Linda Ukatusi is an organization which has representation from across the 47 counties. We are working with the people, different team, a team of lawyers who have agreed to give us services. And those who are, we are just only facilitating them to help us in this litigation, because the current regime, the illegality is what defines Kenya Kwanza government. They don't seem to respect the constitution, they don't seem to respect the law. And I've said, what they are trying to do is trying to show the world that they won an election. And in fact, what they are preaching to the people, that we won this election when we were out of the government. And William Ruto is forgetting that he was the deputy president. And we knew what happened, because he was part of the government, and he had an opportunity to either manipulate or do something. So they are promising people that they will continue with the manipulation. And that is the reason why I told Azimio to stop focusing on the conversation that will not yield fruits. They are discussing things that envisage amendment of the constitution. Also, the office of Musalia Mudavadi, if they are saying that they want to put it in the law, so what it means is that it is an illegal office. So anything that alters the basic structure of government, when a state a referendum, and the Kenyans need to reject any move to amend the constitution. Let us implement the constitution. The constitution has got enough, has given us room to exercise our democratic space. There is no limitation. The Political Parties Act gives the office of opposition reasonable amount of money. So he has power. When you have money, you have power.
That is not a position that is in this, recognized in the Constitution.
Do you know the reason why opposition leader? Do you know the reason why opposition leader is not in Parliament? And do you know the reason why we said cabinet secretary should not go to Parliament? Because when you are a cabinet secretary, you are not supposed. You are a technocrat. You are not supposed to go there and defend your mistakes. You have taken out of office. You need to ensure that you deliver on based on your profession. So I just want to also support my friend, lawyer, who has said that Kenya Kwanza doesn't seem to be embracing the experience or the expertise in the administration. That is coming out very clearly. You cannot appoint people who look like goons and you expect results. I am not expecting any result from Aisha Chuma. What result can you expect from Moses Kuria who is insulting everybody? I don't even expect any result from Machogu. Machogu has zero track record. He doesn't have anything to show you. What made William Ruto to appoint him as CS? Does it really mean that Kenya is limited? We don't have people who have a necessary experience and expertise who can help us address some of the national issues we're having.
Wakili, just coming to you on the issue of, for example, the office of the official leader of opposition. Is there a need to have that particular position or office in the constitution? And again, number two, he has talked about the issue of cabinet secretaries appearing in parliament. Raila Odinga and his team are opposed to that, but President William Ruto insists that they must appear in parliament to answer to questions regarding their ministries. And recently, the man on the hot seat was Ababu Namwamba. So, first of all, should we have that office of the opposition leader office of the official leader of opposition in the constitution?
In a country where the government is not planning to steal public money, that office would be useless. In a country where the government is not planning to take anything from Mwananchi, that office would not be useful. In a country where the government is not planning to beat up opposition demonstrators, that office would be useless. In a country where people are not looking at others as shareholders, non-shareholders, and therefore making appointments on tribal lines and on favoritism and nepotism, that office would be useless. But do we have such a country? Unfortunately not. We have a country where appointments are tribal, as we have seen. Look at the energy sector. It's there for everybody to see. We have a country where there's a lot of nepotism in what is happening, even at county government levels. We have a country where, you hear one morning that there was a stampede on the bypass during Maandamano and 700 million automatically is going to be made available, by the way, to repair a section of road not more than 2 kilometers. And by the way, the tarmac was not uprooted. So we need an office of the leader of official opposition because the government in place today is a government that does seriously require checks and balances. That's it.
Now, you've talked about this, because one of the biggest problems in this country is, one, like you've said, tribalism. Number two is the issue of corruption. Millions of money was used to, of course, repair the infrastructure that was vandalized. The president has been vocal about, tackling corruption. But if you look keenly, and this is something that I have kept on talking about. If you remember the KEMSA scandal, the mosquito net scandal, people were sent packing. And it has always been the case. Sending people packing is one thing. Taking action against them, making sure they face the charges in court is another. Ever since the KEMSA board chair, that is KEMSA chair, Mr. Daniel Rono, the former MP for KS South constituency in Elgeyo Marakwet County, was sent packing. Even the PS in the Ministry of Health, no action has been taken. So at the end of the day, if we cannot be able to tackle these issues, corruption and the issue of tribalism, like you say, then where are we headed as a country? And even as you give us your final sentiments, Wakili, do you expect, I know you've said and you've talked about probably William Ruto having former Prime Minister Raila Odinga in his corner, and probably we are foreseeing a situation where we can have a referendum. If at all we will have that referendum, again, will we not be overburdening the taxpayer? Because the biggest issue is we as a country, we are known for spending money when there's no need to spend that money. Because if you say we do not need the office of the official leader of opposition, then that is one of the things that the opposition, the government is fronting or calling for in regards to the talks. And if we go to the ballot, and this is one of the things that will be, or to the referendum, and this is one of the things that will be passed, then we'll have spent money on something that is useless. Okay, so what do we do?
I think I'll start on the corruption bit. I have always said it, and I don't get tired of saying it. The day you will stop pre-qualifying suppliers and start pre-qualifying manufacturers, Kenya will change. You go to the military, for example, they buy a lot of cooking oil, but it's not supplied by Bidco or Kappa or any of the companies that makes oil. It's a third person who goes and buys oil from that company as if we don't know how much they buy it for and sell it twice over. I keep saying the government of Kenya buys a biro at 200 to 250 shillings. Whereas you and I, if we went to a shop and we are told 200 shillings for a biro, we wouldn't buy because we know it's 20 shillings. When we start pre-qualifying manufacturers, what will happen is these tenderpreneurs will pack up and go home. And they will become manufacturers. The reason we don't manufacture is because it's easy for me to sit here and procure 20,000 biros from China and come and supply them to the government of Kenya. But if we start pre-qualifying manufacturers, I will have no choice as a tenderpreneur but to sell the Range Rover I've been boasting around here with, or the V8, because most of them are riding those big cars, and start a biro making factory so that I can supply biros to government because they are only pre-qualifying manufacturers. When you pre-qualify suppliers for furniture, what do? They buy furniture from China and they sell it to us. But if you pre-qualify manufacturers of furniture, what will happen is that people will start manufacturing furniture because the government of Kenya only works with manufacturers. So we will make money, we will save money because we are buying it at factory price as Kenyans. So you stop buying a biro at 250 and start buying it for 20 shillings. We spend 5 times more. When the government, there's a time when a Land Rover used to cost 3 million, they used to buy it for 15 million. Don't know how much they're buying it for now. So first, we save money at the point of buying. 2, we create jobs for those people because now people stop buying from outside and start manufacturing locally. Secondly, to the other question about the referendum, there's always money for the wrong thing. This government has got money to run fleets of cars. We see them when they're coming from funerals and Thanksgiving services on Sunday, because Mount Kenya is an region where they don't need development. All they need is Thanksgiving and prayers. They've already made sure, they made it clear they don't want 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote. They want Thanksgiving prayers every other Sunday. Those people who need development are in Western. Those are the ones who need dams. Right now, the president is in Kisii. He's on a development tour. He'll come back over the weekend, Mount Kenya. All we need is prayer, interdenominational prayers, Thanksgiving prayers, prayers of the faithful, prayers for rain, prayers for Thanksgiving, prayers for rice and muchele and nyama. That's what we need in Mount Kenya, and that's what's happening all the time. So the referendum, when it comes, if it does come, there'll be money for it. That I can tell you. The only thing that we shall have a problem is giving money for schools and money for higher education. That is not extremely important, at least in the hierarchy of needs of our politicians. What is extremely important is to create positions that politicians need and want. And I can tell you there will be money for that. And that's why even when we have exams, sorry to say this, it is possible to hear that KCSE delayed getting to some polling stations, but not ballot papers. And remember, the same schools that do KCP and KCSE are polling stations. So you'll have a problem providing education material to get there, but not ballot material. And when the time comes to move KCSE papers, sometimes there's a problem, unasikia Land Cruiser zilikwama, but moving ballot papers, there's a way we fly them to Bomas of Kenya. So it's about what matters to this country.
Mr. Callistus Wafula, your parting shot.
Okay.
In a minute.
May I say that the sovereign power belongs to the people of Kenya, just like it is well explained in the Constitution. About the talk that is going on, to me is not talking. We cannot say it is about Kenya, because Kenyans are not on that table. During BBI, the High Court of Kenya helped us to distinguish between the state officer and the ordinary citizen. And therefore, from where I sit, I want to tell Kenyans that the talks are just meant to lie to Kenyans that they are working on something, but when they are just lying to each other, William RUTO has organized to use that talk against Raila Odinga, and he is going to manage, he's going to use it against azimio. Again, when we say we are discussing about the cost of living, and the private sectors are not on the table, civil society are not on the table, church leaders, professionals are not invited. How can we say politicians who have failed to deal with these issues from Parliament, from the Senate, from executive, can now sit down and find a solution? there is limited ideas in these people who are talking, and they are talking. Let Raila make it open that he wants servers to be open, and that he wants IBC to be constituted. That one we shall listen. But about cost of living, there's nothing they can do by talking and saying they are going to manage cost of living. Cost of living is managed by cost of production. We need to manage our recurrent expenditure. We need to manage our taxation so that what is made in Kenya can also be given value or can be competitive on international market.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kalistas Wafula, for joining us this particular morning. Wakili Fanyamambo, thank you very much for making time to be with us today, as well as Mr. Aaron Kigole was with us via Skype. That is all that we had for you today here on the Morning Drift on the 28th of August 2023. We're just 3 days away from the end of the month. And of course, Kenya Kwanza government will be marking a year in office next month. Question is, has the Kenya Kwanza government delivered what you expected in its first year in office or not? Will the talks, or the dialogue talks between the Azimio team, the coalition, the opposition that is, and the Kenya Kwanza coalition, which is the government, bear any fruit? Well, we'll be following key stories for you today, which includes the bipartisan talks, which are scheduled to continue the Bomas of Kenya here in the capital, Nairobi, among other stories, which as well includes the, of course, inquiry by the Energy Committee on matters national power outage and who is to blame. Well, see you later on tonight on the Spotlight as I bring you all those stories. But until then, do have a beautiful day. And remember, you can visit our website www.lookuptv.co.ke just to get an overview of the stories making headlines today. Do have a wonderful day, and like always, God bless.